Today marks World Social Media Day, and a summit is being held to reflect on the impact of social media on citizen engagement. Communication officials in government and the public sector will gather to share ideas on how to communicate better with citizens. This year's theme is Reimagining the Future of Citizen Engagement. Now, of course, we're watching this story at a short vantage point, or a close vantage point, I should say, with my co-anchor Michelle Craig, who is at the summit for us at the University of Johannesburg. So many important discussions already have taken place with social media influencers in some instances who have really mastered the art of monetizing being on that particular platform. It goes without saying that even our jobs as journalists have changed drastically because of the kind of engagement, the democratization of the public space, as they would say in academic. But Michelle Craig, once again, live to us from the University of Johannesburg today. And Michelle, it feels like we don't have enough time for the summit, even before it starts, because there's just so much to think about.
Yeah, good morning, Ayanda, and to our viewers as well. Were you eavesdropping on our conversation just now? Because that's exactly what I was discussing with our guests, the fact that we need a lot more time to unpack the various issues insofar as social media engagement is concerned, and particularly social media engagement and government. With us this morning is Lakela Kaunda. She is the DDG in the National School of Government, and we spoke to him just a little earlier this morning. Lorato Tsenkeng is the convener of the Social Media Summit, and he's also the CEO of Decode Communications. To both of our guests, thanks very much indeed, and welcome. Welcome back, Lorato. Lakela, I want to begin with you this morning, DDG, because, you know, it's such an important issue, the issue of social media and the opportunity that it brings insofar as government using just the scope of the reach of social media to engage with its citizens. What are you hoping to gain from the summit here today?
It's a very important gathering for us as government because, as you say, social media has opened a whole new major communication platform for us. South Africans are using social media in a big way, and also importantly is that statistics show that 38 million are on the internet, more than 100 cellular phones in the hands of South Africans, so that gives us a big audience. So what we are hoping to achieve is to raise awareness amongst government communicators that social media is there for usage to impart government information, but more than that, that they need to use it in a more interactive manner, because the technology is interactive. You don't dump something on Facebook and go away. What government communicators need to do, you post something. If you're a municipality, you say there's going to be an outage, expect people to engage you. They will respond. They will say, you're talking about Claremont, what about Umlazi? So that's what we're trying to encourage, to say, please, government communicators, engage South Africans. They want to talk. Yeah. Because the government policy promotes two-way communication with the public, and that's what social media gives government.
And South Africans do want to talk, don't they?
Yes.
I want to ask you this, DDG, because it does feel in many ways that the COVID-19 pandemic first opened up this space for us insofar as communicating with the country at the same time, those important life-saving measures in the midst of the pandemic. What were some of the failures then that government continues to learn from now?
I think, yes, COVID-19 was a major turning point for government communications. If you take an example of the Department of Health, they had about 100,000 followers on their Facebook page. Right now they have 2 million.
Wow.
And that's because of COVID, because people were so eager to learn, to know more about what is happening. But what government needs to do then is harness that 2 million. So what I would say the challenge for government is, after COVID, what did we do? Did we then relax and not build on that audience that we had gained? Because it means South Africans are able to listen, are able to talk, are able to provide feedback on social media. But is government then responding? So that's what, as I say, we're hoping to achieve through engagement such as this one, to say, please, there's social media. We gained the 2 million at the Department of Health. SASA, for example, has massive following. Let us then find ways to use social media even for other communication, other messages as well. There are many other departments that could use social media even more to engage with the public. So we are still, it's still the early phases now. There's more that needs to be done.
Lorato, you were in studio with us on the AM report. It was in January this year, and we were discussing it's called the South African Government Leaders on Twitter report. That was the report for 2022. You know, what were some of the findings then that you're hoping to feed into the summit that takes place today?
Thank you once again, Michelle. So, importantly, the report only focused on cabinet members, right, at both national and provincial levels, and also their ministerial liaison officers, what we refer to as spokespeople. The biggest finding, of course, was that there are a few of the cabinet members who use social media effectively. Unfortunately, there are those, who are service-facing. For instance, the Ministry of Police. The Minister of Police is not on social media, even as we speak. However, the finding, because of the spokesperson, is on social media, engages a lot with the public. So if there's a query, whether it's about, DNA issues and the likes, right? So those findings helped us to then be able to think about how do we help communicators, one, reimagine how they ought to be doing comms. Because, in fact, interestingly, the most followed communicator at the time, or the ministerial liaison officer at the time, was Maschaban Grovu, and she was with the Ministry of Sports. But there was a following that she had built over time, so she didn't build it as
in her personal capacity.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the ones that followed in the top 10 were in the 4,000s. So you have 400,000 and 4,000, and 8 of them were around for, call it give or take 4,000. But importantly, so one of our partners, Gauteng Tourism Authority, so one of the observations as well is that the makeup of government, so you have state-owned entities who generally do social media relatively better. Right, they have heads of digital, but when you go to provincial departments, when you go to national governments, they still have your typical media liaison, content, internal communications, but digital comms is not prioritized. And one of the things that we are hoping to achieve out of this summit is to say, are we structured the right way? Because once you assess and you accept that we're not structured the right way, you say, what do we need to do so that we are then able to be ahead of the curve? As Mama Lakela was referring to say, did we remove the foot off from the pedal? And perhaps that is the issue, that there is no capacity, they are not structured right, and therefore if there's a rethinking there, we are then they are going to be a lot more better responsive to citizens.
Right. Yeah. It sounds, DDG, like what Lorato is saying is that we need specific people in this kind of role if we're going to maximize the potential of social media for government.
Indeed, because the challenge now is certain departments do not have people who are dedicated to digital communication. As you say, some do have digital, others don't. You find someone is doing media liaison, and then if they happen to have an interest in Twitter, Facebook, they'll say, okay, please also post. So it's not something you
like
do. Yes, so you need people who are dedicated to it. As I said, someone who will literally watch and also respond, not only dump and go, post, respond, engage, liaise with experts within each department, because some citizens will ask questions that require an expert response. You need to go find out more, respond. So it needs to be a full-time job within government. It can be, it can be someone who does it as a half measure, or if they have the time. Yeah. Yes.
He's nodding vehemently next to you. Lorato, it's the issue that we spoke about earlier this morning. The potential there is massive, but the potential to miss the opportunity is huge as well.
Absolutely. So you will see, what one of our, or at least our tagline is fearless, strategic, and connected, right? The reason we say fearless, generally people think that Twitter is toxic. But those who are trained as digital comms specialists, they approach it with fearlessness because they know how the place works. They know how to be responsive. So when you have the skills and the expertise, you are better prepared, right? And it is that where the missed opportunity then comes, where sometimes you find the youngest in the room, we say, you can do this social media thing. So if you think about it, 15 or so years ago, there was no career called social media manager.
Yeah.
There was no career called community manager. Today we have those, and they are in high demand, and they are even paid better.
Wow.
In fact,
you're
even
making us feel very
influencers.
old this morning.
even influencers, a lot of people who are content creators are making lots of money and they are able to then make a career out of it. So it's that fearlessness. But the point that I'm making is that, once you are trained, your ability to approach social media with the kind of, I am confident, right? It is better. And that is the kind of government communicator and cadre we need to be able to deal with the challenges that citizens will always be dissatisfied for one thing or the other. But you must be like Kaizer Chiefs, right? You will win about 8 seasons in a row, but you will always come back and say, we want you to be our loyal fan.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Well, to both of our guests, Logato Tsenkeng, let me thank you for your time this morning. Lakela Konda is the DDG in the National School of Government. Massive potential for an event like this. Ayanda, as I throw back to you in studio, a lot of the response, ironically, on social media, on Twitter this morning, is people saying, we had no idea today was World Social Media Day. Well, now this is the first summit of its kind as well. And given just the broad range of topics that will no doubt be unpacked here at the summit today, I doubt it's going to be the last. For now, it's back to you in studio.
Absolutely. Michelle Craig and the rest of the team. Live to us there from the University of Johannesburg. That's where that summit is being held, the first of its kind once again, at least for us here in South Africa, even though this day has been marked for over a decade now.